Thanks, Alex, and thanks everybody for joining us for the very first session of the 2023 DOD Cloud Exchange. Very glad you're with us, and we hope you'll be able to stick with us over the next 3 days. We're going to have insights from a wide spectrum of both DOD folks and industry folks to talk about the challenges of cloud adoption, IT modernization, software modernization, data management, really from big enterprise systems all the way down to the challenges of implementing cloud at the tactical edge. But as is sort of become our custom on these events, we like to start at the strategic level. And for that, we're very fortunate to have with us Lily Zeleke. She is the Deputy DOD CIO for Information Enterprise. She's had that official title since, I think, December, or served in the acting role. Served in the acting role, doing the same job for a few months before that. Thanks so much for coming in and leading us off this year. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much, Jared. Thanks for having me.
And want to get into some discrete questions around things like the JWCC contract and a lot of other things that are in your office's purview. But if you could, just start us off by big picturing all of this for us. From where you sit, where is the department as of March 2023 in this cloud adoption journey?
So JWCC obviously made a big splash in December 7, 2022. So we are full force implementing JWCC. And JWCC, when we talk about a cloud contract, this is the fulcrum to changing the way we do contract, and it's a multi-cloud, multi-vendor contract that's going to enable us to have flexibility, that's going to enable us to do more things than we've done before. Honestly speaking, it's just the beginning because it is an enabler that is going to let us continue our journey on the software modernization front, which we've talked about with you before, but also really sort of pulling our legacy capabilities to the forefront and now really addressing those in a real way. So all of these things culminate in the way the department is journeying from the information enterprise perspective, and data is at the heart of it, and how we manage our data and how we utilize the information, the data we have to produce information that is helpful to the community, as well as how we speed up a delivery of data from one end to the other. So there is a lot going on, and hopefully we'll unpack some of them from a, as you say, a strategic and policy standpoint.
Absolutely, we will. Let's stick with JWCC a bit, since it is, as you said, a fulcrum for a lot of the other things that you mentioned. Last big news we heard out of the department was in December, of course, when the awards were made to the 4 hyperscale cloud vendors. I know a lot's been happening since then, but mostly outside of public view. Can you give us a little insight into some of the preparatory work the department and your vendors have been doing to get this ready to actually accept orders?
And absolutely. I think you'll be talking to Sharon Woods
Yes.
In the same Cloud Exchange. So I'll leave the details to her. And of course, their program office, the DISA hack, has been incredible in preparing and getting us on the right track, obviously in collaboration with the DOD CIO as well as across the department. Some of the key things that we're focusing on, obviously, is the technical implementation. So we got to bring the services and put them in the right place, the connection, the security, everything needs to be in place. So that is going on behind the scenes with the program office and the hack, DISA hack, with Sharon and the team. So that is really, especially given we have kicked off the unclassified portion of JWCC. So there's a lot of outreach going on with respect to getting workload, getting the workload into the cloud right now. So for the unclassified, that is. The other piece we're working on is getting secret and top secret in place. As you know, secret is supposed to be kicking off by 60 days after contract award, and then 180 days for top secret. And this also includes extensive collaboration with the IC and industry partners and the industry CSPs, as well as some other DoD components to make sure that we have all this in place to kick off the secret and top secret piece. But the other piece is really the tools and processes. That is one of the major things that the hack is working on to get the tools in place to speed up the ability to do the task orders, the acquisition process. They've automated that. They have a tool to do that, as well as the tracking and the funding piece with the ordering piece. So they have two tools that I'm sure Sharon will go into details. So they've been setting that up where really that is to enable fast acquisition, as well as the ability to really optimize and know, the funding, the spending on cloud, and the ability to optimize services. So we're working on all of these, but the extensive outreach is ongoing, and we need to be able to optimize use of JWCC really at an enterprise level for all of the other things that we talk about.
And as you say, we will absolutely get into some of those details with Sharon, but at a high level, can you talk a bit more about why it is so important to the department to try to automate some of that work and turn those task orders around as quickly as you can?
Absolutely. And again, if you have seen, the Department of Defense it's a large organization. We have very extensive processes for acquisition, and it's very important for some things, but for our ability to be agile and turn capabilities in a quick way and acquire services in a quick way. We're starting to automate and really be creative in the way we put out task orders. And the tool that the hack has really produced and developed gives us an ability to quickly run through a process. I think Sharon explains it as TurboTax. So you run through, it really walks you through the process, and it's amazing for the ability to select and optimize and what really the user really needs, and the ability to acquire very quickly. And really it helps also with getting JWCC into use quicker. So I think that is the differentiator, where many of the processes that you would have paper or maybe different handoffs is now automated and in one place.
The department, I think, has been pretty clear from the inception of JWCC that OSD is not going to shove this down people's throats. For customers that have their own solutions already implemented that are working for them, they can stick with that, at least for the time being. Can you talk about, whether that's still the case and the current thinking on that, but then also how you harmonize JWCC with everything else that's out there and rationalize the cloud portfolio that's gotten pretty broad and widespread out there? I
think you used all the right words there, because that is exactly the reason we want to rein in cloud contract sprawl. So really the idea of having an enterprise level multi-cloud, multi-vendor, flexible cloud contract and ability to acquire direct from the CSPs is a lot different and at all classification levels, hitting from the ability to acquire CONUS to the tactical edge. There's a lot of optionalities there that one or the other enterprise cloud from the services may not offer. In addition, really the ability for us to really optimize and make many of our connections for a thing like a joint JADC2 joint operation, jointness of the forces, it is really imperative that we're all consistent in the way we acquired IT capabilities, as well as really honestly the operational use of anything that we acquire. So that is how JWCC will help us. But to your point, there's various things that we do through cloud contracts. So there may be things that the services that have in place right now that are platforms that help them optimize from a service standpoint. You're absolutely right. They're going to continue to use that. But ultimately, as we drive the ability to do the joint JADC2 operation, we have to all be sort of aligned in the way we acquire the systems, the capabilities, the interoperability is critical. So we're going to work with the services as we look at the way we proceed going forward in new cloud acquisition, for example, or in how when we rationalize, which you pointed out, we will rationalize across the board as much as we can, and how we invest, honestly, in cloud. We don't want to duplicate the efforts. We don't want to have various cloud contracts popping up that we cannot track. So I think there is a lot of work that's awaiting us, and rationalization is not an easy thing, and we'll talk about that when we talk about other IT initiatives. Really, that's one of the things that is foundational and fundamental for us to be able to, in a systematic and in a fair and in a real way, to get after getting everyone to optimize the goodness of JWCC.
And just to stick on rationalization for one more beat here, I imagine a lot of this is not just about reducing contract duplication for fiscal reasons, but also making sure you've got some kind of data environment where information can flow from one cloud structure to another. Are you at the stage yet where you're starting to think about how that all works in the interim until everybody's on, I don't know if everybody's ever going to be on one contract even long term, but how those data flows work across various CSPs, potentially on even different contracts?
And that's a really good point. I think data in general is a big initiative for the department. As you know, with CDAO Online, we're going to have to work with them as well as the CSPs, to your point of the ability to really optimize the data we have within the department collectively at an enterprise level, but also it flowing to the different components as we need them in a consistent way, and our ability to really make sense of all the data we have in a uniform way. We're all talking and using the same criteria, the same metrics, or at least consistent metrics in the way that we measure the mission output, because this is ultimately about supporting the warfighter, supporting the defense force that supports the warfighter. So you're absolutely right. There's a lot of work to do. Data is at the heart of it, and it is definitely going to be integral to the rationalization piece. Not just the data, also the tools and the systems and the capabilities, the IT capabilities that we have. What mission are they really serving? Do we lift and shift everything? No, that's not going to happen. So what goes, what stays, and making some hard decisions there as well.
One of the themes that's come up over and over again in the few years we've been doing these events is that, it doesn't make a lot of sense to migrate workloads to the cloud just to go to the cloud. You do it because there's a lot of different innovative things you can do once you get there. From your perspective, what are the top things the department can start doing near term once a lot of these workflows are in a cloud environment? What are the near-term opportunities?
The near-term opportunities, in my view, I think we can start moving workload that's ready. However, we do need to situate ourselves where we are rationalizing, which we've started already, to what moves to the cloud and what makes sense to move to the cloud. And if it's not the cloud, then how are we optimizing, whether it's data centers, wherever these systems reside? This is really where I'll bring up defense business systems, for example, right? We have hundreds of them, and most of them are legacy capabilities that will require either a lot of modification, refactoring, new code, or we're just going to have to let them run their life cycle and look into the future. So I think I talk about this a lot when I think of from an information enterprise perspective, and from my seat, where we really focus on is two worlds, and we are sort of the bridge that tries to move the department forward. And in a way, the software modernization initiative and cloud, all of these are things that help us with the ability to get our mission capabilities and processes to deliver the right information, the right data quickly, fast to the folks that need it. And as we look into moving to the cloud, we have to address our technical debt and the defense business systems, or any other, to be honest, any other legacy capability. Those are the things that we're thinking about right now. It's not just about, we don't move to the cloud just to move to the cloud. We move to the cloud for mission capabilities and to enable the warfighter to have better capabilities and flexibility and automation and AI and all these things we talk about to move us to the next level and in the competitive edge and to our competitors. That is really, it's across the board. It's not just about the cloud. So there's a lot of work that has to go on, and there's a lot of work that's already going on. It's not, it's ongoing.
Let's stick with defense business systems. I think it's really important. And actually, on day 3 of our event this year, when I talked to a couple of the PMs who've successfully migrated, my sense is those successful migrations or cloud native implementations in the business system arena are still pretty rare, pretty few and far between. This oversight role from the OSD level over the defense business system space has kind of moved through various NDAA cycles, from the CMO to somewhere else to CIO. It's back at CIO now, I think. From that high up, what can you do in terms of better oversight, better enabling of modernization of these sometimes very large systems? And I realize sometimes the answer is going to be you don't belong in the cloud. So talk with us a bit about how you see your role in improving things in that area.
So one thing, this is the first time that it's come to the CIO. So maybe in the older version of NII or other organizations, it might have gone, but that's a key point, because I think we look at something like defense business systems and we think process. If we just improve the process, then we'll be able to fix and manage. And I think there's been enough oversight for defense business systems. I don't think it's oversight. I think it's pinpointing what is really the key that's holding us back. And really, if you peel the onion back and if you really look at over the years that you mentioned, I think we've focused on the process piece, but really ultimately you can't improve process with legacy capabilities. So the technology has to change. So at the heart of it is really the legacy systems and how we manage this technical debt and the technical piece of it, and how we marry that up to improve our architecture, improve our rationalization, and see, to your point of, there are many capabilities that may be duplicating, or how we manage to run their life cycle and get us to the next level of capabilities so we can actually improve the process that these defense business systems are supposed to be supporting. The warfighter and the users should not have to worry about capabilities that are pulling us back. They should be able to do their mission at ease and with flexibility and at speed. And really, with old systems, you cannot do that. So it really, the technology is at the heart of it. And I believe the fact that we are focused on, from a CIO standpoint, not just on the business process, but in coordination across the board with our performance improvement organizations, with the data, CDAO data officers, with the functionals who within the OSD organization, as well as the components that actually use these systems. I really believe we're finally making headway into really what's at the heart of what we need to address to manage defense business systems, which is really the statute you're talking about.
Yeah, and the functional communities that kind of own these systems, I think they've recognized for a long time that technical debt is a big problem for them. I mean, the financial management community certainly knows that this is a problem for getting a clean audit. The logistics community, I'm sure, knows that this is a problem for their logistics chains. So getting back to your role, is it primarily arguing and championing more resources, better coordination? What can the DOD CIO's office do to help push this ball forward that, again, these folks have recognized as a problem for a long time?
That's a really great question, because I think when we talk oversight, it's sort of a nebulous, like it's not just oversight. Actually, the DoD CIO is responsible for coordinating and enabling an enterprise architecture. For example, for defense business enterprise architecture, working with all the functional communities and the CIOs, the IT. So the technical and the business have to marry up. And I think we're in a position where to ensure that that happens as we coordinate across the department. We're also really the gatekeepers of the defense business systems repository, which entails all of the information for the systems. So we really need to work on the data quality, completion, and that's one of the things that we will really be focusing on. But the biggest thing is, honestly, we are going to have to come up with good technical criteria. Well, we're already coming up with them to address how we rationalize these systems, not just from a business standpoint, but the technical. How does the technical integrate into that? And how do we make the tough decisions if we have to? Or how do we make the decision to move the systems to the cloud if they can move to the cloud, which some of them can. And also just being able to bring all the players together in a way that we're not only focused on the business piece, but also on the technical piece. So I think this is really a journey. I always talk about modernization is a journey. We're going to have to walk it with many across the department. It's going to require all of us, and I can tell you it's not an easy journey. It's not going to be an easy journey. It's never easy. If we could have easily swept up the technical debt and moved, done great things with defense business systems, we wouldn't be talking about them right now. So it is really a heavy lift that is going to require all of us in the department, from data to business process to performance improvement to having really good metrics that is output driven, that is about the mission, that is about the users and the warfighter. What are we supporting? They got to eat. They got to get, the things they need. They got to get paid. We have to do all these things. So the functions support the bigger mission, the operational missions. So we really have to get focused on what we really need to focus on.
Just one last quick thing on business systems. The repository you mentioned, that's interesting to me. It sounds like part of this is just cataloging what's out there. Is that a relatively new development, just identifying where all that technical debt actually lives?
To be honest, it has existed. So we have data repositories for all of our systems. We just happen to manage and run the defense business piece. But data at large, getting the right data, clean data, being able to do the rationalization in a real way, being able to make the tough decisions depends on good data. I'm not saying, I think sometimes we just got to go with what we have and make some decisions, but we try to, really get better data in a way that we're able to make really good decisions. And that's really what I'm getting at. But another piece of it was really the enterprise data in a way. What is the functional data that these systems are handling? So that is the kind of thing that we'll be working on with the CDAO to make sure that we appropriately characterize the functional data in a way that, again, we go back to rationalization. When we talk legacy systems, we cannot just sweep up rationalizations. That's going to be the key part of it. The same with when we talked about cloud. Rationalization, because that's the only way we can optimize and we can look at things from an enterprise standpoint. And to your point, we're not going to sit here at an enterprise level and we're going to handle the entire enterprise from here. Our role is to set up a criteria from an enterprise level that then flows down to the functionals and to the components in a uniform way, where we're going to be able to feed the same kind of information, which data comes into play, and how you talked about characterizing and tagging the right data. That's what our role is, to set up the framework, to set them up for success, and with the structure that it needs and the governance it needs, to be honest.
We've talked a fair amount about software modernization, but I want to dig in a little bit more on that, just because I thought it was a fairly significant development last year when the department released its first ever software modernization strategy, which was also the cloud strategy. The promise from that was that there was going to be quite a bit of follow-on work to get to eventually a more detailed implementation plan, working, I think, really importantly, outside of the CIO's office with other stakeholders from the acquisition community, from the R&D community. Talk about what's been happening on that front over the past year as you've worked to get to something a little more concrete to guide the department on software modernization, and where you want to really go here.
So I always say I think the strategy's been out since, I think, early 2022. We are already implementing. We're just sort of getting ourselves together and coordinating the software modernization implementation plan and crystallizing and memorializing. So that is almost at the last stages of coordination. I may have said this, before, but it is really getting very close to being finalized, and we should be able to release it. But really the point I want to make is the work is ongoing. So we have an incredible governance forum that basically helps us execute the software modernization strategy within the Department of Defense. That is DOD CIO, ANS, Acquisition and Sustainment, and R&E, Research and Engineering, tri-chair, so with me and two other folks, that there's incredible work going on in there to already implement. So one of the things I talk about is we have said enterprise cloud, accelerate delivery of enterprise cloud. Here we are. JWCC was awarded in December 2022, and so we're all well on our way to realizing the enterprise cloud initiative. Obviously, for all the things that we talked about earlier, we're in the implementation phase, and we hope to really materialize the JWCC to the extent possible that we've dreamed about having enterprise cloud. But having the cloud contract or having cloud by itself is not really the matter, as I said earlier. So there are many initiatives going on right now. For example, OCONUS Cloud or Tactical Edge. So we've produced and delivered an OCONUS Cloud strategy and even a technical design that we are actually working with some of the combatant commands to and our OSD partners to test that initiative. What that means is really the Marine that is disconnected, or the sailor at sea, or even any of the remote workers that are supporting the warfighter from different locations, their ability to be able to have the same type of data, get the data as fast as we get it at headquarters. So getting the data to them and getting the right data to the Tactical Edge is an incredibly critical piece and a priority to the department from implementation standpoint. And so that is the other piece that we're working as well. And the other is really, you've heard us talk about software factories and DevSecOps, which is really combining and baking the security across from development to operation. And that's really becoming real. We have, I believe, 59 software factories, if I understand. So the other piece is we got to figure out now to make sure that we don't have software factory sprawl. But really, they're doing amazing work, delivering software at they call it the speed of relevance. I told you last time, I wish I came up with that, slogan, but they are really doing that. And there's a lot of work going on in that regard. But part of it is for us to be able to also, at an enterprise level, make sure that as we get into this agile way of doing software, that we are also making sure that we don't have the sprawl, that we can manage, and we are managing investment in a right way, and really delivering mission that really is critical and matters, that we are hearing the users in a way that we're delivering the right things to the department. So there's a lot of work that's already ongoing with the software modernization strategy and what the plans we've set out in there. And hopefully we'll be able to show also the crystallized implementation plan very, very soon. And I hope I'll be able to talk to you about that as soon as it comes out. But basically, again, we're already working these. And even the defense business systems that I talked about, that's going to have huge implications to that in the way now as we look at to modifying defense business systems. One of the things we're looking at is, are you using modern software practice? Are you using the software acquisition pathway? So we are really sort of pinpointing in all directions from an acquisition standpoint, as well as all other capabilities that we are implementing. In a sense, we're already implementing.
Yeah, you perfectly anticipated my next question, which was going to be on those software factories. Obviously, there's some really big examples of those factories doing great work implementing modern practices. Yeah. What's the problem with just letting 1,000 flowers bloom out there? Why do you need to worry about the sprawl that you mentioned if there's goodness in these?
So I think I was talking to somebody that actually manages and works in one of the software factories just very recently. And one of the things that came up was capacity, right? So I think the software factories will have a certain capacity to meet this kind of agile way of doing business. And if we load them up with requirements without real consideration to really, is it going to meet capacity or surpass their capacity, then all of a sudden we've hampered, or I would say it's contrary to what we're trying to do. So that was like something new that just clicked to me. But ultimately, too much of anything that is not appropriately sort of organized and managed, it can become an issue. And I will point back again to defense business systems. We use all of these defense business systems today because we popped them up because we needed them. The same with the software factories. We want to make sure that the sprawl is managed and makes sense and is delivering the capability in the way that was supposed to be delivered, and there are no hindrances in a way that once you have these things in place, if there's too much capacity need or their ability to meet certain requirements, they can't scale, then I think we will have a problem. I'm not saying that's a problem, but these are the kind of things we need to think about ahead of time to make sure that we're managing it in a way it makes sense. But again, I think all these software factories are done by the services. We don't really have a very specific, like, you must do this and you must do that. There's some high-level guidance through the SSG that I talked about, the governance forum. And these are the things that we're continuing to work. And once again, this is another one that is a journey that we need to continue to walk to make sure that we optimize and do what we need to do with the right investment.
But I think when you talk about who's actually writing the code, either in the factories or outside of the factories, a huge amount of it is done by vendors and not organic DOD personnel. How much of this is a industrial base issue, right? Because your contractors have been developing in waterfall fashion for decades that's what the department has asked them to do. What can the department do? What is the department doing to also bring its vendor community into modernizing the practices that it uses to develop for the department?
I think, to your point, I really believe they're already integrated into our community, and they're part of the process in helping us figure out from the legacy capability to the future. I really believe that the DIB, we can't do it without the DIB. It's the future technologies that they're bringing, as well as the ones that they've helped us develop, that we need to make meet. So they are at the heart of it. The software factories do most of their software, but to your point, we are still working within the system and within the systems and processes that exist today. So there's also that navigation that we're going to have to do as we're not going to overnight become like this only software factory and only in-house. And honestly, with the way we're going with JWCC and other things, leveraging the expertise and the incredible services that the DIB brings to the table is imperative to our having us have the advantage, information and decision advantage.
I want to make sure we get to user experience in the time that we have left here. You know, I've been hearing people throughout the department complain maybe not the right word, express dissatisfaction with their government-furnished equipment and networks for as long as I've been paying attention to these issues. It seems like it's caught fire a little bit in the past year or so, and including through social media. This whole idea of fix my computer has become the anthem, and it seems to have caught the attention of some of the service sixes, the IT leadership in the military departments. What are you seeing in terms of individual defense components who are really getting after this issue, and what can you do at the DOD CIO level to help?
So this is really, honestly, on mine and Mr. Sherman's top priority agendas. Is we're looking at everything I talked about right now, from a user experience perspective, as well as the technical debt, which really plays part of it, right? When we have old technologies or not refreshing as quickly as we need to for the equipments you talk about, or the performance of some of our networks, all of these things play a factor into the user's ability to optimize and get quick service or quick sign-on or whatever it may be. So we are very much focused, and in any of the issues we work, we are actually looking at it from that lens. And one of really the critical things that we believe strongly is that we need to come up with the proper metrics. We need to come up with monitoring. We need to come up with, in a way that we automate and monitor our systems, that we can really see the trends, but also we've got to have aggressive outreach and communication with the user base. I think that happens, individually or separately by the components, but I really feel, from my perspective and from my seat, I really need to make sure that we have a really clear plan for engagement with the user and hear and deliver the capabilities that they are asking us, or the modifications that they're asking us to make, versus sort of assuming. We've given you this awesome IT. We can make all the incredible IT in the world, but if the user is not understanding it, or is not using it the proper way, or is not using it at all, it's not going to be any use. So aggressive outreach is really, really important, and hearing the users out as they come to us. And to your point of, the new age of social media, my view is it's really a blessing, because now we hear it, we see it, and we're able to really address issues in a quick way, where before, unless I do a survey, maybe somebody will complain in their office, but nobody hears it. So I actually think it's a good thing to hear directly, and having that kind of insight for us to be able to react on.
Did some of this change around COVID as well, just in terms of the department's culture and willingness to confront some of these issues head on, rather than just saying, this is how government networks work, sorry?
I don't know if it was a sorry thing, but I will believe that COVID and what it brought us to really catapulted in the way that we are addressing remote work, remote reach, in a way we've never thought of before, because it wasn't a thing. People may have teleworked once in a while, but it wasn't a thing. So COVID not only catapulted our need to really focus on remote work as much as we do the office work and the desk desktop, but also collaboration and how we communicate and how we really look at the problem set when we talk about the user base, because it's really changed things. I'll just say it's really changed the environment and the way we look at even IT, for that matter. It's not just back office now, it's everything from end to end. So I really believe COVID catapulted us to think about modernization and dealing with the user base in a way that we never really had to before.
And just to bring this all back to cloud, are there aspects of cloud too that reduce the department's need to own and operate and secure so many individual government-owned devices? I think there are some scattered examples of components doing things like virtual desktops in the cloud that mean you don't have to have a super expensive endpoint on every single person's desk. How much work is going on so far to figure some of that out, figure out how much you can save by not buying so many different endpoints and not having to secure so many different endpoints?
There is work ongoing. I really believe that's one of our challenge areas where we have to really focus on endpoints, because there are a lot of endpoints now. And we've really focused on that because of, as you said, with COVID sort of catapulting the ability. So when you think of remote work, you can't not think of endpoints. And really an expanded level of endpoints. But really, the bottom line is we have to think about endpoints and any other ability for us to be able to secure, to be able to communicate and deliver information in a quick and fast way, and the ability to really have a two-way exchange with not just within DOD, but with our federal partners, mission partners, et cetera. And I really believe there is more work to be done, but it's a challenge and an opportunity for us to continue to work on. But cloud is going to be at the heart of it, to be honest, because we got to be able to scale and deliver speed in a way we've never done before.
All right, we are going to need to leave it there for time. Lily Zeleke, Deputy DOD CIO for Information Enterprise, thanks so much for doing this. Thanks for getting us started this week. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jared. I really appreciate it.
And once again, hope you'll be able to stick with us over the next 3 days for the rest of our government and industry speakers on the 2023 DOD Cloud Exchange. I'm Jared Serbu. Alex, back over to you.